So much. Welcome to the first session of the Albuquerque Metro Crime Initiative, convened by the City of Albuquerque to bring leaders from across the city and state and across the criminal justice system together for a new opportunity to collaborate and develop clear and actionable steps to address the public safety challenges we feel deeply in Albuquerque and across our nation. My name is Alicia Manzano, and I'll be serving as your MC. I'm so grateful to see so many of your faces today. I've been seeing many of you behind Zoom screens. I was telling Senator Lopez that. It's really great to have you in the room today. I'd like to acknowledge those who have joined us today. My apologies if I forget anybody or if I missed anybody. We have District Attorney Raul Torres and members of his office, New Mexico State Police Chief Robert Thornton, from the Office of the Attorney General Ann Kelly, Chief Public Defender Ben Barr and members of his office, Secretary of Public Safety Tim Johnson, from the Office of the Governor Diego Rincon, Police Chief Harold Medina, Director of our Albuquerque Community Safety Department Mariela Ruiz, Senate Majority Whip Linda Lopez, and Senators Harold Pope and Bill O'Neill, State Representatives Gail Chasey, Meredith Dixon, Mo Maestas, Marion Matthews, Joy Garrett, and Pamela Herndon. Majority Floor Leader Cheryl Williams-Stapleton will be joining us, but she'll be just a little bit late this afternoon. I'd also like to welcome City Councilors Lan Sena and Brooke Bassan, and Bernalillo County Commissioner Walt Benson. So, again, thank you so much for being here today, taking time out of your Friday afternoon. This is an incredibly significant gathering of public safety leaders in our state. We are all committed to the well-being of families in the metro area and across New Mexico. I also want to welcome folks watching at home. These sessions can be streamed live, or you can catch them at a later time on the One Albuquerque Media YouTube channel. As you watch, we encourage you to send your questions and ideas to metrocrime@cabq.gov. This is the first of 5 sessions this summer that will dive into areas of focus for crime prevention, enforcement, and the criminal justice system, taking a close look at case studies in all of those areas. Damon Martinez, our Senior Policy Advisor for the Albuquerque Police Department, will overview those sessions a little bit later in the program. Many co-sponsors, as I mentioned, I listed some of them on the front of the program, are here today and will be key in those deep dive sessions as we move forward. To start us off today, I would love to welcome our Mayor, Tim Keller.
Well, good afternoon on a beautiful Friday afternoon as I look out the window there, and it also makes me especially grateful that everyone took time on a Friday afternoon to actually sit here and begin to think about some of these challenges in how we can actually try and work on some of this together. Let me mention just a couple of brief things before I get into my remarks. Number one, I know there's a lot of, it's awesome. First off, it is great to see all of your faces and be in person. I mean, I have to tell you, it's sort of, I feel like it's like a reunion or something. And so that's special. And so look, at a minimum, enjoy seeing each other and catch up, and we'll look forward to working together. But also I want to mention this format for this one. There were so many institutions interested in this and so many people who wanted to share thoughts on it. We've tried to work with the staff working groups to try and just set up something that's sort of productive, and we're going to go over how this will work. But today is different. Today is really about sharing about what we're trying to do, and then the real work is obviously going to happen in the next 4 sort of forums. And even the format will be different. It's like the next forums aren't going to be somebody standing up here on a podium. But this one I think was a little different. We wanted to sort of kick this off with really essentially a briefing for anyone who's not familiar with some of the details. So with that, let me firstly thank every institution who has agreed to participate. And whether it is the governor's office or the legislators or the DA's office or the AG's office or auto theft or our federal, even U.S. Attorney's office, state police, everyone who's on board with just taking some time to sit here and listen to each other about this issue. Thank you for doing that, because I know fundamentally that actually hasn't always happened in our state. It does sometimes, but it has happened in a long time, and it's time we listen to each other and see what we might be able to learn from the different agencies, even though we know that we work hard together each and every day. And we also work together each and every day. I hear all the time, either, oh, collaboration is just a word, and everyone always says they're going to collaborate more, and nothing ever changes. And then I also hear everyone's in silos and no one talks to each other. We know, right, neither of those are true. Our agencies work together all the time, and especially out of respect for the folks on the front line, whether they're officers or investigators or detectives. I know that you all have public safety first and foremost in your mind almost every minute of your job, and even when you're not on the job. And so I appreciate that, we respect it, and we honor that. We also know that this format hopefully will result in something a little bit different than us just talking and giving presentations. We actually have some specific goals for this, and that's what I want to explain with you today. We know that in the metro area, crime has always been a challenge, and we know that that challenge continues. That is not a surprise to anyone in this room. We also know that coming out of the pandemic, this is a little bit of a unique time. One, we actually have not seen each other in person, a lot of us, in the same room at the same time. And that includes even the legislature having to be virtual and so forth. So I think there is value in and of itself of us convening. But also we know that there are unique challenges that are challenging our criminal justice system, whether it's domestic violence and the rise we're seeing in that, or it's violent crime itself, or it's even things that might not be at first stage as dangerous, but because of what can result in them can be just as dangerous, things like street racing. So there are also some unique challenges that we need to talk about and figure out what we can do about them. So our goal here is to honor the concept of the criminal justice system. And the idea is that you can't just fix or talk about one part. And so we're going to try and do two things strategically here with this effort over the summer. Number one is we are going to try and honor the system as a whole. We're going to be using a case method that you're going to hear about, where we're going to try and understand which agency has which problem at which step in a hypothetical case of a person going through the criminal justice system. And so this will hopefully, free us from also having to talk about actual cases we're working on, so that we're able to say, look, the problem that, the city had or APD had in this particular situation in this case study is the following, and here's what we could use to fix it. And then we go to the next step, whether it's the DA's office or the state police, and then they will say, okay, well, here's the problem in the hypothetical that we have, and here's what we could have used, for example, maybe better investigation prep work from APD, or down the road and so on to the judicial system, whether it's funding for parole officers, even just more judges, even just more paralegals. We want to try and identify a handful, let's say 10, 12, of specific things that would make each step in the system better. And then if we kind of agree on that, we want to go out to the respective stakeholders for our institutions and say, please help us, the entire criminal justice system, fix these 12 things. So there might be requests for the county commission. There might be requests for city council. There might be things that we just do on our own, administrative commitments that we make that we will do differently. Or inevitably, there'll be requests for the state legislature. So that's the idea. So we are not writing a report. We're trying really just to share our pain and then ask each other to help us solve each other's pain so that we can have a criminal justice system that works better going forward to actually function in that manner we want it to function. Now, I want to pause there just to mention the idea for this. If you like it, you can give me credit. If you don't like it, you can blame Representative Dixon. So I do want to share with you where I was kind of awakened to this. She came out of the session, and I didn't tell her I was going to tell this story, so I hope it's not too bad, Representative. But I think there was some frustration that you can only appreciate when you're new to the system. And Representative Dixon is a new representative in the State House. And, we just, it was coffee or phone call or something. And it was like, what is going on with trying to actually fight crime in a better, more equitable, but also effective way? And why isn't everyone saying the same thing when they come up to the legislature? And, what we're saying is like, well, I know what Albuquerque needs, right? That's what I go up and say. And then, some other office says, well, that's what I need. But what I want to say is, here's what we must get the DA. Here's what we must get the courts. Here's what we must get the auto theft unit at the Superintendent of Insurance. And also, here's what APD needs. And then hopefully, right, I'd like those other offices to say the same thing about me. That's the idea, is we are going to have the same list of must-dos for our Albuquerque metro area to improve the criminal justice system. So in some ways, it's a tall bar because it kind of implies consensus and a shared vision. But in other ways, it's a low bar because we're only looking for a couple of things from each agency. We're not trying to come up with any grand new silver bullet that's going to change the world automatically, because I think we know these problems are deep and they're very challenging, and we want to respect that challenge in that depth and that complexity by not trying to paper it over with some miracle idea that we know isn't going to work. It's got to be a real ask that we've had a challenge with for decades. That's at least, and I can only really speak for Albuquerque and APD, but that's what we're coming out of this looking at. So I think with that, what I'm going to do is hand it over to folks who certainly know much more about the details of this than me, but I believe that we have the right people in the room. And so I am grateful for that, and I want you to know that we invited everyone in the ABQ metro area, and by and large, everyone showed up in one form or another, and that is a great thing. And so I want you to give the process a chance over the next 4 meetings, and we'll see what comes out of this. But at a minimum, I think we will be in a much better place than when we started. And hopefully, we will be able to present a shared set of must-do items for each of our agencies and our respective stakeholders for the next year or so. So with that, I'm going to hand it over back to our MC, Alicia. Go ahead.
Thank you so much, Mayor. And I also would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge that we also have Metro Court Judge Maria Dominguez with us today. Thank you for joining us. Next, I'd like to welcome our current district attorney, Raul Torres.
So good afternoon. I want to echo the mayor's sentiments, most importantly the fact that we got so many elected officials in the room on a Friday afternoon. I know how difficult that can be. I also want to take this opportunity to thank the city and the administration for bringing people together. A lot of times the component pieces of the criminal justice system, the judiciary, the district attorney's office, the public defender's office, we don't have an opportunity to step back and look at the system as a whole. And I think if we take advantage of this opportunity to really sit and listen to one another and the challenges that we face inside these institutions, we can make substantial progress towards improving public safety. I think more than anything, though, we should use this as an opportunity to build some relationships or rebuild relationships and bridges among those institutions and start having hard conversations. I know that over the next 4 sessions, we are focusing on those things that we already have a fair amount of consensus around. But I hope we can also start moving in the direction of topics that are affecting the system that there may be less consensus on, but that can't be avoided at the next level and in the legislature. I think there is a perspective in the community that we are in a moment in time where we need to have a real sense of urgency about the work that we do in our respective institutions and take every opportunity to move the ball forward so that we can protect one another and we can protect the families that we all care so much about in this community. I think for my own part and for the Office of the District Attorney, what we are going to try and do in this session is to open ourselves up as much as possible to listening to our partners about the perspective that they have about how we conduct our business, about how we go about our work, with a real sense that we all have room for improvement and we all have the opportunity to get better in our shared mission to serve the public and make this a safer community. So I want to thank, again, the mayor. I want to thank the city for convening this session, and I'm hopeful that this is the beginning of a process that will lead to Santa Fe and real concrete solutions for the benefit of the entire community. So thank you all for being here.
And thank you for sharing your insights, District Attorney. We'd like to welcome next up Ann Kelly, the Chief Deputy of Criminal Affairs from the Office of the Attorney General.
Thank you so so much. The Attorney General was not able to be here today, so he sent me. The Office of the Attorney General is very pleased to participate in this important convening of local and state officials to strengthen our community partnerships and to improve the lives of our families and communities. This initiative gives us a rare opportunity for transformation. As we convene, we will be given the chance to approach issues in the criminal justice system with a level of detail and critical thought that will lead to specific recommendations for an important approach to prevention and harm reduction. Thank you again to Mayor Keller, to the City of Albuquerque, for all the public partners and the stakeholders that are here today who will be part of this vital collaboration. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Anne. And next I'd like to welcome up the Chief of Police of the Albuquerque Police Department, Harold Medina.
I want to thank everybody for being here today and working together with us to try to resolve some of the issues that we're seeing in the city of Albuquerque and metro area. I think the first thing we need to do is we need to be honest with ourselves. In 2017, I returned to the city of Albuquerque, and that first January after I got back of 18, DA Torres walked me through the DA's office, and there were 850 cases that were incomplete, that were submitted by the field officers that I had just taken over responsibility over. At this point in time, I had to sit there and I had to admit that the Albuquerque Police Department had failed, that we didn't put these cases together and we didn't submit them in a way that they could be prosecuted. It was a humbling moment to have to say that we were part of the problem. After this, we went back and we talked about developing a unit that we later named the SHIELD unit. And the LFC report on that stated that we doubled our indictment rate. But the first step was admitting that we needed to change the way we did business. And it took, a lot of courage from the DA to be able to tell me, bro, you guys are broken. And we listened, and we fixed it. And over the course of the next 2 years, I watched criminal case after criminal case get dismissed. And we were in the media over and over again. And once again, when I took over as interim chief, conversations that me and the DA had, that me and the administration had had about how we had to improve, came to the forefront. I spoke to the mayor, I spoke to the CAO, and we worked and we developed our first detective academy to improve the quality of the cases of our officers. We also recognized during this time frame that we couldn't address the auto theft problem without help. We reached out to the Office of the Superintendent of Insurance. We reached out to the New Mexico State Police. 2016 and 17, I think 2015, the city of Albuquerque was #1 in auto theft. Last year, we dropped to #2, and this past year, while the rest of the nation saw double-digit increases in auto theft, the city of Albuquerque once again saw a 10% reduction. We're anxiously awaiting for the new rankings to come out, and I'm positive we're going to continue to drop. This is only possible because we as an entity were able to admit where we needed to improve as a police department. And the only way that this initiative is going to be successful is if we're all able to look at ourselves and say we need help. When I took over as chief of police, I made it very clear in the media that I was not going to point the finger, that I was going to be an advocate for all the other parts of the system. We are much more aligned than most people remember. We all believe that first-time offenders need some kind of intervention, that we need to get them to the resources so they kick their substance abuse problem. We all agree, when somebody gets to the point of violence, they need to sit in jail. These are fundamental beliefs that we all have. We just have to work together to develop the processes to make sure that every single individual has the resources they need to succeed and get out of the criminal justice system if they choose. And if they don't, that as a community, we stand strong and we say, no more violence. So I look forward to us working together. I look forward to us being honest and telling where we could advocate for help in your process so that we all together can get the help that you need in your areas and point out where the Albuquerque Police Department could continue to improve and submit better cases, develop better processes that are truly going to lead to the long-term reduction in crime. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Next, I'd like to welcome up New Mexico State Police Chief Robert Thornton. Welcome, Chief.
Good afternoon, everybody. The hat's part of the uniform, so you probably wonder why I was sitting there with it off. And so it's part of the uniform, and that's why I wear it. So just so you know, it wasn't to try to show off or anything of that nature. It's great seeing everybody here. It's a good group of people. I see some legislators here, APD, spoke with someone from OSI that hadn't met before, and I think these meetings are important for us to get together and collaborate. And collaboration is a big key of this meeting. But I think a lot of times with collaboration, what I've seen throughout my years of service is that we collaborate, we leave the room, and nothing happens after that. And that's the part of this, is as a group, a collective group that we have here, and the minds that we have here, that we can get together and collaborate, but we need to put it into action. We need to make a plan. We need a plan from there. We need to execute that plan once it's done. And execution is key. And the execution that comes about is going to be on the officers that deal with that in the field. And I think once we execute that plan, and as we go through these meetings, we need to understand that this execution, it may not be immediate. It may not be exactly within a month. It may not come with even a couple months. It's something that we're going to have to measure and look at and reassess at some point. Because even though we have the greatest plan to start, it may not work out in the end. And we're going to have to get together as a group to reassess and address those issues. And so that's important for us to understand. The collaboration is great. The planning is great. The execution is key, and the execution comes on the officers that deal with it. And they'll do the job. I know the officers, APD, I've seen those guys. I've worked with them on several occasions, and they're a class group. Our state police officers, I can't speak enough about them as well. They are, I won't talk too much on them, but yeah, those are my family, and those are the people that I've shared this career with for 20 years. But as a few things I wanted to say is we need to make sure that we put this plan and this collaboration into motion. And at the end, once we have those results, let's measure them, reassess, and do the good work for the community to keep it safe. Because we can do some good work here, and we need to support those officers that are going to go out and do it, because it ain't going to be an easy job. And we have a lot to tackle, and we have a lot to deal with. But we have a lot of support, and it's great to see everybody's face. Y'all have a great day, and appreciate the time. Thanks.
Thanks for clarifying, Chief, about the hat, because usually when I wear mine, it's to look all bad. I also would love to acknowledge our Chief Administrative Officer, Sarita Nair, who's in the room also with us. She oversees our Albuquerque Police Department. Thank you for joining us, Sarita. Next, I'd like to welcome up the Chair of the House Judiciary Committee, Representative Gail Chasey. Representative?
There's a surprise order to the speakers. So, as chair of the House Judiciary Committee, I am proud to be part of the first ever such initiative like this in Bernalillo County and Albuquerque. Those of us who are elected to serve are obligated to leave no stone unturned when we look at public safety and how to improve it. So, real solutions are possible when all stakeholders work together. We need comprehensive approaches to have a very complex and excellent criminal justice system. So this initiative is exciting because it takes that comprehensive approach, and we will work together on identifying issues and then real solutions for the issues. So we know that our community and our state, not unlike other communities and other states, are dealing with a real crime issue. And we know that incarceration is only one part of our potential solution. We need to focus on early intervention where we prevent individuals from entering the criminal justice system. So as legislators, I think we've spent years and years trying to support behavioral health and educational opportunities, economic options, but we never solve it all. So I have been working with the mayor and his team and the city for 2 years now on an early intervention program called the Violence Intervention Program. And what I hope is that the VIP, Violence Intervention Program, will educate our community on the need for early intervention, highlight the benefits of the program, and enlist public support for the Violence Intervention Program because of its great and proven in other communities in the country, a proven potential for positive, long-lasting results. So all of us working together are crucial in going forward. I want to thank the mayor and his team for the work we've done together and in putting this initiative together. I look forward to its success.
Thank you, Representative. Next, I'd like to welcome up Senator Bill O'Neill, the Vice Chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee. Senator O'Neill, were you guys expecting to go in opposite order? I just want to keep everyone on their toes in case they haven't had snacks yet.
Happily, I didn't look at the order, so this is cool. Anyway, look, when somebody hits the juvenile or adult system, the challenge is to get them out. You know, it's called recidivism, and this is something that I know firsthand. In the 90s, I was basically the staff of Dismiss House, which is still in operation. It's a well-regarded program for adult offenders, men and women coming out of prison. So I would work closely with these individuals, helping find a job and so forth and so on. And then I morphed into the juvenile system, which is a totally different world. I was the head of the State Juvenile Parole Board, again, the focus being incarcerated kids and their release plans, how to keep them out, you know? So basically, the causes of crime are complex. I mean, people, you all know this in this room. I mean, addiction, poverty, like family trauma, you know? So it makes total sense that we would have a comprehensive approach like this. It's so fitting that we're looking at it in a macrocosmic way, if that's the right word. I think that's the right word. You know, larger picture. So anyway, I personally am really looking forward towards the end of these sessions, when we get towards the end, 4th and 5th, where the focus will be on reentry. And that's really the challenge. That's what I know best. As a legislator, I was really proud of being able to co-sponsor with my Republican colleague, Alonzo Baldonado, the Ban the Box bill. And that was signed into law. And so that's basically when somebody's trying to live straight and applying for work, they don't have to claim their criminal history on the initial application. And in a related vein, just know that at the legislature, we have a strong bipartisan impulse. You know, I take really a lot of pride in that. I'm looking at my co-chair of the Criminal Justice Reform Subcommittee, Mo Maestas. That's Republicans and Democrats as legislators coming together with things that we can agree on. So there's many things that we are able to agree on. So, you know, and others that we can't, but you know, I think there's a real common sense dynamic at the legislature. So, having said all that, I want to thank the mayor, former senator, former power forward of our basketball team, you know, for putting this together. Not really a power forward, but a good forward. So anyway, but thank you all for coming, and I really look forward to the work of this committee. Thank you.
So mediocre forward, huh? Not power forward. And this person's been working on these issues for many, many years. He's the chair of the House Commerce and Economic Development Committee, and someone who I think should probably win Coach of the Year for Little League based on the videos that I see. Representative Mo Maestas.
Thank you. Well, thanks everybody, and thanks for having me.
So in college, I worked in a factory, and then after law school, I worked as a prosecutor's office. I prosecuted some of the old school officers may recall that, but I prosecuted violent crimes for 5 years at the DA's office, and so I view the criminal justice system as an assembly line, you know, and so how do you speed up that assembly line? How do you hold people accountable swiftly, justly, and then also how do you get people off that assembly line that should be off or probably shouldn't be on in the first place? So the question is just efficiency. So to bring this initiative together, to be thoughtful and thorough, we're going to find policy solutions to the criminal justice system. So I anticipate that this initiative will create a strong foundation, stronger relationships, not only amongst us in Bernalillo County, but help us as legislators and lawmakers do what we can and be a model for the state. Up in Santa Fe, the criminal justice champions are separated from the appropriators, and we bridged that gap over the past 10 years. We hung tough, and we not only held institutions harmless, but actually increased funding during the depths of the Great Recession and the oil price crash that we had back in 2016 to ensure that, you know, where the rubber hits the road, which is essentially Lomas and 4th and 5th and then Marquette at the PD's office and then Roma, those institutions need to be adequately funded, and we fought for that funding and hopefully get you more. We have $2.5 billion in reserves in the bottom of our bank account in state government. Now, we still have the penny pinching mentality big time, but we need to overcome that. We need to realize that a dollar wisely spent is a dollar that we should be spending. And so our coffers are going to continue to grow as our economy grows, as our natural resources get extracted down in the Permian. And so we have so hit us up. Let us know what you need up in Santa Fe. Let us know if you need tweaks to the statutes. Make it easier for prosecutors to meet the elements of the crime and get services to victims, no question about it. And then obviously get services and expand the vision of the Independent Public Defender Department to ensure that folks, like Senator O'Neill said, don't recidivate and get the services and the programs and the jobs that they need to stay out of the system. So there's been a tremendous shocks to the system. In the past 10 years, we've done our best to respond to those shocks. When the Supreme Court said you can no longer hold people in jail with high cash bonds, which was so easy back in the day, just give somebody a $50,000 cash-only bond, and you'd keep that was unconstitutional. In a short 30-day session, the legislature sprung into action, proposed a constitutional amendment, and the voters now allowed judges to hold people without bail, which was unconstitutional before. So we've hopefully done our part, and I am just grateful to the mayor and his leadership putting this crime initiative together. Look forward to participating, and it's the good things that are going to happen here in Albuquerque and our state. And we, even though it's a non-competitive division and all the games are ties, I told my players they won the championship, so they'll go to the grave champions of the T-ball. Thank you.
I honestly haven't seen such great analysis on T-ball ever, so I really appreciate the commentary. Next up, I'd love to welcome up Representative Meredith Dixon, who had some of these ideas to bring forward, and of course the mayor mentioned earlier, if you love this idea, he's going to say it's his. If you don't like it all that much, he might say it's Representative Dixon's. Representative.
Thank you. I was not expecting to be outed. But I am very glad to be here, so thank you all, and thank you to the mayor and his team and everyone who's participating today. As elected leaders, we have a responsibility to work together to find answers to current challenges. And I believe that as all public officials, we recognize the heightened concerns about public safety. And so the goal of this initiative is to raise awareness about approaches and proposals that will improve results. The community that I represent in Southeast Albuquerque wants us to come up with comprehensive efforts and do everything in our power to make sure that our community feels safe in their homes and on the streets. In the last legislature, one of my priorities was trying to deal with property crime, and so I introduced a bill that dealt with auto theft. So I'm particularly pleased that in this initiative, we're going to focus on different types of crime, including homicide and property crimes. I'm looking forward to the sponsored measures that will take on specific challenges and strategically prioritize law enforcement resources. By educating the public and ourselves, we are going to be more knowledgeable about what needs to be done. Thank you very much.
I'd also like to acknowledge Majority Floor Leader Cheryl Williams Stapleton has joined us. Thank you for joining us, Majority Floor Leader. Now, I mentioned at the top of the program that we'd go into a little bit deeper dive of the details of what these 5 sessions will look like. So I'd like to welcome up former U.S. Attorney and current Senior Policy Advisor for the Albuquerque Police Department, Mr. Damon Martinez.
Good afternoon. If I could, I'd like to acknowledge and thank Fred Federici for being in the audience today. Currently, Fred is the acting U.S. Attorney here for the state of New Mexico, and we go back a long ways together. We started in Las Cruces, and he's a very dedicated public servant. Thank you for being here. Thank you. So let me give you the roadmap for the next 4 sessions. We start with a comprehensive hypothetical case study concerning a person named Kelly. Looking at this case study over the next 3 sessions, the elements of the case study will be familiar to many of us. You will see a developing and deepening involvement with the criminal justice system, allowing us a deep dive to share knowledge and see issues in new ways. In each session, we are bringing together panelists and experts, many of whom are with us today, with deep understandings of the criminal justice system, the behavioral health systems that interlink. Now, in session 2, on July 28th, we learned that Kelly is beginning to have a criminal record and is also beginning to show mental health issues. This will allow our panel of experts to discuss the needs for early intervention, resources, and solutions. In session 3, on August 13th, we now learn that Kelly has a serious drug problem, breaks into a home, and steals a car. This will allow our panel of experts to discuss the criminal justice system prior to trial, including policing, prosecution issues, diversion programs, and pretrial detention issues, as well as the issue of property crime. Now, in session 4, on August 27th, we finally learn that Kelly has an extensive criminal record, is involved in a drug buy, and ends up killing an innocent bystander with a handgun. This final scenario will allow our experts to discuss possible sentencing enhancements, needed resources for victim advocates, and resources needed for re-entry programs. The final session, session 5 on September 9th, will focus on career pipelines. Our experts will examine the pipeline for careers in fields that support our efforts with behavioral health, policing, public safety, and criminal justice, including prosecution, defense, and the courts. Using this case study as a framework and touchstone, the leaders and experts gathered here and joining for future sessions will be able to work together to present specific solutions, better approaches and collaborations, and needs for resources that can then be pursued and implemented. We're incredibly excited to begin these working sessions, and thank you again for being part of this important initiative. Thank you.
Thank you, Damon. I'd like to welcome Mayor Keller to say a few closing remarks.
Great. Okay, well, thank you so much for everyone for sharing some of those remarks. And we're going to move to sort of wrap things up in just a moment. And so I think, would just wrap things up from my perspective by saying, again, thank you so much, everyone, for coming. Representative Dixon, we've had some fun with you today, but I got to tell you, she kind of inspired me in a way that, when she brought this up, I had all the same excuses, right? I said, well, we did blah, 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 and, point finger, blame someone else. That whole concept that we do, not personally, but, we have the approach, I think, by default that says, we're just trying to do our thing, help us out. This is trying to actually have that shared vision and say, you know what, help us out, but also we need these other 6 things. And that's what is missing from the Albuquerque Metro to everyone from the council to the commission to the legislature, and sometimes even for us in between agencies. So thank you so much, Representative Dixon, for inspiring me. And also, my answer was, let's really focus on the policymakers and on the experts, like in the field of practice. And so that's why these sessions are set up where, everyone's welcome to listen in. We'll have some opportunities for those to join. But it really is about listening to the people on the given topic who are literally doing that work every day. And sometimes if it's policy, it might be a legislator. But a lot of times you're also going to see, whether it's attorneys or judges, folks actually doing that kind of work. And I think for some of us, especially myself, this is the last time you're going to hear from me on this in terms of at an actual session, other than listening. Because I think it's also important for those of us when we're not up there, we've got to really hear about how we can help these other agencies. So I think with that, Alicia is going to share with you sort of what's next and what date I think we'll proceed on, and also who to talk to if you have questions. But with that, let me close with this. It's not lost on any of us that crime is the number one issue we hear about in the city of Albuquerque, in the metro area of Albuquerque. I'm not going to speak for the state, but I certainly know that as the mayor of Albuquerque, that is the number one thing I hear about every single day. And I know that everyone here wants to try and help. So there is absolutely the motivation and there is the intention. But we've got to convert that to something real that will actually help fight every aspect of that criminal justice system. And so that's what we're here today to start. And also, we really respect the experts and that staff-to-staff communication. So for the elected officials who are here, I just want you to know that whether it's folks in auto theft at Superintendent of Insurance or state police, et cetera, this whole concept, we took our time to roll this out because they actually really kind of cooked it up and put it together, even the case study. So the ideas and the things we're going to be discussing is coming from the experts who do this and have done this for decades. And so that is another reason why I think it's going to be really fruitful. So with that, thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of the weekend, and Alicia will tell us what to do next. Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor. So as Mayor mentioned, our next session will be right here on July 28th at 1 p.m. It'll be the second session where we start diving into the details, and then the subsequent sessions will follow throughout the summer. So those of you who have already been contacted by some of the people on our team, Kevin Sorosau, Damon Martinez, Mike Pooley, you can still remain in contact with those folks if you have questions moving forward. Again, if you have input on any of these sessions, if you're watching at home, metrocrime@cabq.gov. I'd also like to mention that we still have snacks and some refreshments. We'd love for you to mingle if you'd like, get to know one another. We'd love this to be a collaborative effort moving forward, and part of that starts with just talking to each other. Secondly is we're going to be doing a press conference at 4:30 right outside this room. So if you'd like to stick around, we'd love for you to, and especially those who are speaking at the press conference, we will be doing that right outside this room at 4:30. We're so grateful that you joined us today. Thanks for spending your Friday with all of us.